What's going on with this piece of hair right here? I mean, seriously, can't all of these hairs just get along? Why do we have to have ridiculous hair? This is very unforgiving hair weather here. Okay, here I am. So I want to share with you a little bit about some of the adventures I have had with my nerds. I call my husband and my son my nerds because I'm telling you, if there is a science fiction fantasy con or an anime con or a super nerdy gaming, like weird strategy games that take 4 hours to finish, like they are all about that stuff. Now, I have zero interest in anything related to nerdy things. Therefore, I've lovingly named them my nerds. Anyway, my nerds took the Thanksgiving holiday and they came to Sicily to come to spend time with me, and I couldn't have been happier. So they arrived a little over a week ago, and guys, like, it's hard to describe the anticipation when you've been away from your close family for almost 3 months. I could not wait to see them. I've watched people in airports for years, like waiting with like balloons and roses and teddy bears and stuff. And I'm like, isn't that a little over the top? Well, I came with my ginormous Italian flag and looked like all of those people that I've been judging for years. I met them at the airport. My friend Rosetta took me to the airport and brought us here to my little Sicilian townhouse, and the boys got acclimated. Now, I've gotten really used to living the Italian lifestyle here. No microwave, no dishwasher, no clothes dryer, no all of the things that like we just have in the States. My son opened up the freezer. He's like, this is the freezer? I'm like, yes, this is the freezer, not this is the freezer. You know, there was a lot of like initial like, wow, mom, you know, you're doing life differently here. Some would say that I'm a little more high maintenance of a girl. It was a huge compliment for my son to be like, wow, mom, props to you for doing without and feeling totally fine with it. So I felt like that was a win. We made a special trip to the beach, so we took the public bus down the mountain to the town of Termini in Marseille. We had a beautiful seafood lunch right on the water. It's interesting because we talked a lot about how the town of Termini has put all of like their really ugly buildings right on the beautiful waterfront. So like there's old warehouse buildings, old factories, you know, box type buildings. And then there's like this oasis, this little tiny restaurant called La Lanterna, and it's right there on the water and it's cute like you want it to be. But if you look anywhere except the ocean straight ahead of you, it kind of looks like, you know, not very exciting. But we had a great meal there. It's funny to be so dependent on. My husband and my son, they speak no Italian. And so like to be like ordering for them or answering their questions or telling them what's on the menu or, you know, how do I say please or thank you or good morning or good evening? You know, it once again reminded me, wow, like everything feels gradual here that I'm learning. When you accumulate all the little learning, you get a big learning, and that is encouraging. We went to the newly renovated Poveri Church, and we went to what we would call in the States a Bible study. There's praise and worship, there's a message, there's praying for each other, and it's kind of like an hour and 15 minutes of kind of just that kind of vibe. I think the boys were kind of surprised by that a little bit because everyone is in jeans and sneakers. It's not 1947 where everybody's wearing pill hats and little gloves and like dressing up. It's just like normal stuff, you know, somebody's cell phone went off in the middle of the prayer, like just normal life stuff that comes with being in a modern day society. But we're doing this Bible study in this church from the 1600s. Very small and very intimate. And so that was like really, really, really fun to do with them. Here in the little mountain village of Caccamo, built outside of the front of people's actual houses, facing the street, are little statues and grottos of Jesus with his arms outstretched, or the Virgin Mary praying, or a saint or an apostle. It's very poignant for me to be going throughout my day. I have to get to the grocery store before Reposo starts and everything shuts down for 4 hours. Or I need to replace this light bulb I've never seen. Where do I have to go for the light bulb? And just to be walking through the village to get from point A to point B, and there is a little statue of Jesus with his arms outstretched, reminding me not to sweat the small stuff and that there is bigger things beyond my normal. That is a consistent reminder here. I've watched people literally stop in the middle of the bank, the grocery store, in the middle of the street, at the government office, stop in the middle of whatever they're doing when they hear that medieval church bell ring, transforming the bread and the wine into the body and blood of Christ. They stop what they're doing, and for 3 seconds, they do the sign of the cross. They thank Jesus for coming to earth, and then they go throughout their day. What a poignant reminder that there is bigger things than us. As an American, we don't have this built into our culture. Even the very idea of discussing religion in certain circles is taboo. Here, it's a normal part of just sucking air. I personally like that. I like being reminded of the importance of doing life, but doing it big picture. So getting back to Cefalù, my husband and I stayed in this absolutely beautiful ancient palace from the 1850s that had a fresco on the ceiling. It was spectacular, guys. All hand-painted little roses, 4 different images of different places in Sicily. Just a magnificent place overlooking the ocean, overlooking the town center with a fountain right underneath our feet. We had a little balcony where we could sit and have coffee. We just had a fantastic time. The weather the first day, amazing. The weather the second day, garbage. But, you got to take the good with the bad. So this is the medieval wash house here in the village of Cefalù. So this was built in the medieval times in order for people to be able to wash their clothes. This was a communal wash basin area. And you can still see where they would wash the clothing right here, even today, all these years later. Let's go see it. So I can imagine 500 years ago being here and washing my clothes here, chatting and gossiping with the ladies of the town about whose kids were dating who and whose husband is sick and all of the things that probably just a part of their everyday life. Take a look at these. These inclines here were where you would bang the wash with the soap to get the wash clean. And then over here you have a rinsing area. And then behind here is even more. Let me see if I can get there. There's even more areas back here. So it looks like at first glance there were 8 areas. So 8 women could be washing the clothes at one time, and a bunch of other ladies could be rinsing the clothing at the same time. But I am sure that this was an area of hot gossip. Hot. This is a quality product made in Italy. It is lightweight. It is able to be transported home eventually, and it matches many things. So I feel like not only was it a good deal, but it also was versatile, because versatile is the name of the game here in Sicily. Honestly, Scott, you can't beat this. I mean, the weather is great. The view is unsurpassed. The company is decent, I guess. 27 years. How long have we been sucking air together?
You can never remember it. 28 years.
28 years. It's been so long, I forgot. And yeah, we still like each other. So Italy is definitely changing me. I think in a lot of ways it's changing me for the better, but there are some things that I wonder when I go home, how will Italy have changed me in ways that I don't know? I was reminded of this by just having my husband and son visit me for a week. For example, we went to a cafe to eat lunch. My husband comes from a Mennonite culture. Mennonites in general tend to eat extremely quickly. They eat fast, they eat big bites, and they get going. They don't spend an hour at the table chitty-chatty. It's eating is a function. It's not a festivity. It became even more acute for me to observe my nerds eating in this cafe and thinking about how I noticed it before I left, but now I'm noticing other people noticing how quickly they eat. There was a couple sitting next to us, and the husband looks at the wife or the lady and goes like, take a look at these foreigners over here. They were done with their burgers like in 10 minutes, and like they had 2 bites, because for them the meal was about conversation and it wasn't about function. I brought this up to Scott and he was like, I hadn't really noticed that. Later on in the week, he was like, I notice it now. Now that you mention it, I can see that this is very unusual for this Mediterranean culture. I see it in another way, and I still do this the American way. Whenever a Sicilian, in my experience, sits down, whether it be for coffee, whether it be for a drink, whether it be for lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever the thing is, they never take more than a quarter of a cup of any drink in the thing. If it's like a communal water bottle or a communal bottle of wine or a pot of coffee, they only take a quarter in the cup, no matter how big the cup is. Like literally, like that's like 2 gulps in some circumstances. And I've often wondered why. And I asked my neighbor about this and she said, we don't want to appear rude by taking almost all of it. She said, I never thought about it. But yes, you're right. We only take a quarter of a glass of anything and then we'll refill it 2, 3, 4 times. And I'm like, that feels like a lot more energy to be continuously, refilling these cups of whatever you're drinking. And she said, well, it's really not about like being logistical or it's about like enjoying your drink. I was like, oh, yeah. So I still fill my cup the way that I'm used to. I hope people don't think I'm selfish by taking a lot. For me, it's just taking the normal amount. It all equals out at the end. Come on, Italians. Like, if you take a quarter and you fill it 3 times and I take a 75% glass of something and I drink it, we're still drinking the same, but we're just doing life different. I had the opportunity to visit the medical emergency facilities here in my little mountainous village of Caccamo recently. My cell phone had broken, the film on the cell phone had broken, and one of the little shards got embedded in my pinky nail, and it got infected, and it blew up to this ginormous purple color, and I could barely move it like this, and it was very, very painful. And I am not a wimpy girl. I was a dancer for many years. I have put pose back into place. I have dislocated knees and kept going. I'm not a wimpy girl, but this was incredibly painful. So my neighbor friend, Rosanna, said, let me take you to our ER clinic. They'll be able to hopefully take a look at it. We knock on the door of this very old foreboding building, and a guy opens the door in his 30s, Italian guy in his leather jacket. He says, can I help you? Yes, my friend's pinky is all jacked up. She needs help. He says, come in. We sit down in the hallway. It's like a dark hallway, plastic chair, like always a plastic chair. And he says, just wait here. He goes into one room and then comes out another door and says, you can come in. So we walk into this door and it's like the consultation room. The guy in the leather jacket doesn't just he's not the security guard. He's also the doctor on call. So he said, what's going on? He looks at the finger. He observes it. He goes, this needs to be drained. This isn't good for you. I say, yeah, I know. That's why I'm here. Thank you. He says, come into this room. So we walk into the room. The room is definitely not what I'm used to as far as emergency facilities in the States. He goes to turn on the light above the operating table and the light doesn't work. He jiggles around all the cords, still doesn't work. He said, no problem. Calls my friend in who's in the waiting room, hands her his iPhone, turns on the flashlight mode and says, hold this and stay still. So jams the finger, disgusting pus comes out. I don't want to bore you with the details. He did the procedure. Immediately it felt better, truly. Immediately it felt better. I said, thank you so much, doctor. How much do I owe you? He goes, nah, you don't know, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, where are the documents I need to sign? Here's my passport. Here's my identification. What do I have to sign? HIPAA forms or documents? Where do I give you my like general medical information? What do you need? He goes, nah, you don't need all that stuff. Just if you end up going to the hospital tomorrow because it blows up again, bring your passport then, but I don't need anything. Here's a antibiotic cream. I wish you well. And that was it. So the moral of the story is I need to be really careful on my scooter because if I break my leg at midnight, I do not want to have them setting my leg here in Caccamo. I think I'm going to go down to the city below the mountain and get that done there. Wow, that sounded really ominous, didn't it? So let me tell you about my Thanksgiving. I am used to Thanksgivings as an Italian American in one of my family's homes and a big, bountiful, beautiful meal. Just like most things that are very American-like, we didn't go through a major fall pumpkin latte season here. No, they don't even have that here. We didn't go through a big Halloween brouhaha. Nobody trick-or-treats here. There's no Thanksgiving here, guys. That's like Pilgrims and Native Americans. They didn't do that here. This place was already settled a billion, trillion years ago. This is not something that is frankly cared about or celebrated here. So I decided what better way to celebrate Thanksgiving, kind of like pseudo style, than to have my own family reunion with all of my cousins that I have met since I've been here. And double bonus, my husband and son will be in from America to visit me during the week of Thanksgiving. What could be better? So I rented out part of the beautiful Castellana restaurant, which happens to be in the ancient castle on the lowest levels where they used to take care of the noble horses. And they turned it into this glorious restaurant and we had a giant pizza party. It was truly spectacular. My 102-year-old first cousin, 2 generations removed, also came to the event. I put her right next to me. We had a great time. The woman marched right in, got her seat, sat down, enjoyed a almost full pizza, talked to my parents in Pennsylvania on WhatsApp video. And it was just so nice to have family, distant family, my immediate family, and my parents and my brothers and their kids, all of these people kind of all connected, whether it be remotely or in person. I had the opportunity to sit down at that table with 3 versions of cousins.
So everyone is here. We are enjoying our first course. And I want to show you the evolution of time down this row. This is Carmela Sanfratello, my first cousin. Rosa, my second cousin. Rosanna, scusa signora. Guardare. Rosanna, my third cousin. Tre cugina. Lorena, my 4th cousin. All in a row. Everyone's here.
Nobody knew each other 3 months ago, although we are all genetically linked. I had my good friends Giovanni, who speaks Italian and English, help us out. And I had my friend Julia, who did video for us, and I didn't have to think about that. So what a great time of just doing Thanksgiving, doing it differently, celebrating life and family, because at the end of the day, isn't that really what Thanksgiving is about? Being grateful for the people in your life, whether they be distant or close to you. You know, we were doing that here over some really amazing brick oven pizza made in a 1,000-year-old castle. Like, I do not think that this Thanksgiving will be duplicated ever in my life.
Okay, benvenuti gruppo.
Benvenuto alla famiglia, we can take family.
Grazie per visitare il tavolo in casa. Attenzione, per favore. Io padre, Riccolo padre, io padre. Okay, Mark, this is Marco, io fratello. This is my brother Mark. This is your second cousin. She's 102 years old.
Not bad.
She's the same generation as Papa. Io fratello, molto piacere, cugina Carmela.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao Marco, ciao Marco. Oh, cuginos.
Sì, sono tutta una famiglia.
Famiglia, sì, sì, sì.
Quello che lei sta facendo qua, loro lo fanno in America.
She said, "Are these your friends?" I said, "No, these are your relatives."
So the nerds left yesterday at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I spent the day cleaning the house because every single outlet in the house had some kind of technical apparatus in it. You know, there's stuff all over that. You know, people live in here for a week. I was very excited to clean the house because I like a very clean, organized house. It helps me concentrate. And by about 10 o'clock at night, after a dinner party, I went for a walk. I walked where my husband's son and I had been stargazing a couple of nights before. And I'm looking up when they were here, and it was a beautiful, clear night sky. My nerds had all of their tech looking at the planets and the different stars. Last night, I did the same thing. However, they were not with me. It was very cloudy and I couldn't see anything anyway. I had this strange feeling that I was not the first person, the first wife, the first mother to look up at the heavens right here in the village of Caccamo, knowing that my husband and my son were going to another country and that they were going to be working in another country or studying in another country, doing life. It's also exactly what happened to my own family. I had multiple male family members in my ancestry who went to America first, established themselves, and then they brought their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their mothers to America later once they were established. That felt very connected for me. Fortunately for me, my husband and son have a 25-hour trip home from my house here, my little Sicilian townhouse, to the home that I have in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. 25 hours point to point of travel time, whereas my ancestors 125 years ago would have had just 3 hours alone from Caccamo to Termini. It now takes 20 minutes on the bus. Then they had to go to Naples because Palermo's port did not have a lot of boats going back and forth to America. So they would have had to travel to the mainland of Italy from Termini and Merse to Naples. And from Naples, they would have had the transatlantic boat ride that took anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks in steerage before they hit New York. Their wait time on hearing from their family didn't look like mine. I mean, my husband was literally off the plane and I was already watching where he was going. I could see his battery was running low on his phone, so I'm texting him, charge your cell phone. You know, the feelings are similar, but the simplicity that we have now, the ease of travel that we have now is different. I am really grateful that I live in this time period. I think a lot of times we glamorize the simpler times, the easier times, the more moral times or whatever. We are fortunate to live in this time period. Even with all of its craziness, the world will never be perfect. I find it very beautiful to have come full circle, that my ancestors left. Many years later, I was able to come back here under very different circumstances for my dual citizenship, to explore the village that my family came from, to be a part of meeting and connecting with family that is a part of me. Most of all, the self-discovery that's coming along with this experience. It is truly, and I really mean this, it is truly something I did not expect.